picks and bans. Once again, the team swap sides. They always do here in North America. Going to see how much they can accomplish here. Rise banned off the table. Rengar going to join that as TSM bans the typical S-tier champions.
Yeah, we can see from the pick order in Game 1 that the 3 bans on the red side have not been that different. The Rengar, Camille LeBlanc may be expected by TSM.
I don't think you give Ninja LeBlanc at the end, so I think we know exactly what TSM are banning for their third, which basically means Envy are going to set up for, okay, what are the trades here? What are we first picking? What are they grabbing in their first round? And then what are we taking afterwards? You're kind of planning 1 or 2 phases ahead right now. And Envy say, yeah, Kha'Zix off the table. This still creates the possible Ivern pinch. It also creates Jace as an important champion.
Yeah, Jace was the first pick last game. Kha'Zix is something that they may not want to give over for free since Envy did pick that first rotation on the red side. And now Envy's left. Pretty important choice. Jace is not surprising.
No, it is not at all. And now we get to see what TSM want to grab. And the thing is, we might see some teams who think Ivern's more important than Kha'Zix. And if that's the case, Svenskar might not even care. Now, that's debatable, granted, but it's always interesting trying to figure out what teams actually think based on their actions. Of course, we haven't seen TSM this week, so who knows if ideas have changed. Shen grabbed in. Of course, that was banned away earlier on, and I think that Kindred pick will stay. You can grab that later on if you really want to play the champion.
Yeah, and I mean, they had such good synergy with the Jason Ivern last game from a poke perspective, but there's also the option of just stopping the enemy team from putting together that combination of champions. And I personally feel like Ivern's a little bit overtuned right now and can work with anything. But if they go with the Graves there, then they're totally fine with giving over that combo.
Well, that is a little bit surprising to me, but that's going to be the pick he wants to go for here. Svenskar picking up the Graves. You'd expect then, if Ivern's going to fit in, if they're going to go for a poke comp after all.
Well, the thing with having Shen in the top lane and an Ivern is that's immediately having 2 people that are very low on damage.
Yeah.
Especially looking at Biofrost's champion pool this year has consisted a lot of Thresh. Then you're dealing with 3 non-threat champions necessarily. So making sure that they're going to have some damage out of the jungle is a nice insurance policy for TSM. And they don't even know if Lyra's going to end up playing Ivern anyway. That's
a fair point.
They can just ban it away now if they want to.
Absolutely the case. Jat, you are right, and that's why you're the analyst and I am not. Jat's smarter than me. I'll never say otherwise. Zyra Ashe picked up the bot lane, though. Jin, even though I'm pretty sure.
Overly complimentary. I'm suspicious.
Jed has the weird thinking emoji face, and so Jin versus Ashe is interesting. We're gonna have the same players play the same marksman this game, but in the previous one, I'm double checking my notes. The Jin was actually picked early. TSM was like, yeah, Jin's more important to us. And then here in this one, Team Envy's like, no, we'd still rather play Ashe. Take the same matchup, that's fine. So just different priorities in the different champions. Some of that might just fit the team composition. Of course, Ashe, Zyra, a very strong bot lane, and TSM will pick the support later on.
Yeah, being able to combo those 2 champions is quite lethal in the bottom lane. Ashe arguably still has the better laning phase when compared to Jin. But specifically, we've been seeing almost nothing but Varus and Jin traded over and are seemingly unanimous through the top 2. So very much almost Envy style. They're picking for what you think is a lane. Although you can also make the argument the Ashe arrow is strong and it could still be a preference for these guys. And Envy going to hope to have a good poke composition with good pick potential.
Absolutely the case, and we'll see if this goes well. Seraph was able to get an individual lead early and throughout his first game of the series. We'll see if we can do that again with an even higher profile top laner in the Jace. And this is pretty much the queens of the bot lane right now for Team Envy. So the side lanes should look good. Ivern and Lee Sin round out the 2 jungle bans for TSM. No surprise there. Zed and Syndra off the table, not allowed for Bjergsen.
Yeah, so that also
that would be good.
That also leaves the door open for Envy to throw Jace down into the mid lane, as TSM had done last game, because the Zed and the Syndra would both be pretty good against him. Interesting to see here as well, with Malzahar still being up, whether or not TSM wanted that. Not great into the Zyra. Misfortune is a more normal pick into that.
Yeah, and we haven't seen Biofrost play a ton of it, I don't think, but he's going to grab it here as the counter pick. Misfortune into Zyra. It's not a surprise to many people who watch pro play.
Yeah, one reason we haven't seen Biofrost play much of it is very often times you'll see Zyra and Malzahar banned in TSM games, usually by TSM in the second ban phase, but unable to do that this game as Zyra's been picked. And Envy just doubling down on this poke.
Okay, Nidalee, and actually it's going to be Kennen after all, and it's going to be Jace flex to the mid lane, I would assume. Looks like Seraph will reprise his role on the Kennen, and we'll have Jace mid yet again for the blue side.
Yeah, the Maokai hover late in the game. We saw Peke play Maokai mid at All-Star. That is unlikely to be replicated. And now TSM does know they're going up against the Jace. Bjergsen may just end up going with an assassin.
Echo.
The Echo.
Fun. Yeah, exactly. So it's part of the reason I didn't like the Zed ban is it would make the team full AD if that were the case. Echo can fulfill similar roles and actually do magic damage to round out the composition. Team Envy, I will consider that Zed ban suspect. But Bjergsen wanted to play Echo here into this one, and certainly it would be hard to play Jason to Zed. But either way, we're going to move on and talk about what these comps can actually do. Team Envy, a bunch of ranged champions. Lyra and Ninja can be melee half the time, but generally consider them ranged. TSM, once again, with a fairly well-rounded lineup. They've got 1.5 frontliners and plenty of backline damage with triple marksman.
Yeah, and Envy has a massive amount of poke, and again have gone with the attempt of having strong lanes, but they don't have the greatest of disengage. Hopefully they would think the Cannon ultimate would save them a bit from TSM, but TSM has double TP. They're going to be looking to try and make flank initiations, although they don't have the strongest amount of crowd control that you would want against a pick comp. So not an ideal composition from TSM, as I feel like Envy has a lot of strong poke champions, but it's going to be a battle of Envy split pushing and poking versus TSM being able to set up flanks.
And that's going to be what we're going to watch for then. Can the TP flanks work out for TSM, or can Envy group up, split push, and siege and poke their way into this one? Let's see if it can happen right here. Picks and bans are done, so you can see the players and their champions, respectively, all up on the screen. TSM hoping to make this their, I believe, only and first 2-0 victory here in the North American LCS. They've dropped a game every time they've won a series, which means if history repeats itself, Envy going to take this game, but TSM going to hope that it goes differently. And of course, the Team Envy fans hoping to get themselves a win after they had gotten one last week. Here we go into game number 2 as they hit the rift. Team Envy versus TSM, and the games begin.
Yeah, a few random facts coming into this. Zyra still the only champion that Envy has won with for Hakuho, so being able to get that on support. Positive trends right there. TSM as well, every series in which they have won a game, they have won that series because their only series loss was an 0-2 against Cloud9 and everything else has been a 2-1, so
yep,
we shall see what happens in this one.
But also in every series, TSM loses at least one game, so who knows?
Zyra's going to win, TSM's going to lose?
There's so many stats that are going to be broken. It's like
prior events guarantee future events.
Oh, it's how it works. There's a great XKCD where there is a every time until this presidential election, this has always been the case. And there's one for every single president. It's just kind of fun. There's even a subreddit dedicated XKCD scripts. I don't know why, there's a website and it's just XKCD scripts, but there is. There's a subreddit for everything. And we are into the laning phase, of course. Biofrost and Wild Turtle actually getting a bit of control over this bot lane. It's really nice. It's worth pointing out that they've managed to get rid of most of Hakuho's seeds without taking a lot of poke damage. And that's always a delicate kind of balance. You don't want to face check 5 plants, obviously, but because seeds last 45 seconds, if you start walking the lane 30, 40 seconds in, you can kind of prep 6 plants for when the laning phase starts. And TSM try to play around that and make him despawn them or turn them into plants, which of course die off much sooner.
Both teams prioritizing getting this early laning pressure instead of secrecy of jungle start, as both teams are expected to be starting on blue side since the duo lanes clearly aren't going to be helping them.
Ooh, 4-shot crit comes out of Wild Turtle. Apollo staying a bit long in the trade. Hakuho won his 1v1 against Biofrost. Misfortune has abysmally low attack damage. If you're not using Love Tap, it's not going to do much for you. Once again, we saw the Raptors start for TSM Svenskar and Graves. He even got a Shen from Hanser doing so. Lyra going to be doing Wolf after blue buff. And both finish off 2 camps at about the same time. Although Sven will have more XP due to his Raptor start.
Yeah, interesting that he was able to start Raptors. Nice little Graves Shen pull that they're able to pull off there. Not much else doing there as they continue to trade in the bot lane.
Biofrost auto attack Q will kill a plant. It does so to trade some of that away. And Hakuho getting plenty harassed down. Doesn't mind taking a single love tap if he can hit him twice back. There's a 25 range advantage for Zyra over Misfortune. So far, though, it's worth pointing out a good CS lead right now for the TSM bot lane. You can't say it's necessarily a perfect 12 because plants do count as minion kills right now, but either way, it is a momentary lead. Lyra wants to go into the jungle. He did this, something pretty similar last time around. He hit level 3, walked into the red buff and said, it's gone. But he does get aggressive wards this time around and doesn't waste nearly as much time waiting. and we'll be able to possibly steal Gromp, but this is really, really nice by Hanser.
Yeah.
He looked at the route from last game and said, hey, you should just like ward the Krugs at 3 minutes. You might see him, and in fact he does so. That's really cute.
Yeah, very clever ward there. Really going to help Svenskeren go for some quality counter jungling. Raptors higher value than Krugs, also able to counter jungle. Now he's going for Ninja.
A lot of damage, gets the melee range, auto attacks in, saves the Q the whole time. He might have actually used it during the camp anyway. Ninja actually forced to preemptively flash. If Q were up, it would have been maybe his death, but he might have not had to cast it if that was still on cooldown.
Yeah, and now it's just going to be a continuation of Svenskeren's counter jungling use. He's going right for the Krugs. He's hoping to get this. This could be dangerous, though, if Lyra predicts it and runs straight for Krugs, as the rest of his team does as well. Svenskeren's got to get out of there.
He doesn't have Smite. His E is back up. Going to dodge away from the roots, but he's going to take a javelin to the back of the head. Can he flash Swallow? Doesn't even matter if he does so. Q, auto attack flashing one of the pounces, and he jukes away a bit, but he's 2 hits away from dead. The red is going to burn down. He's not going to go. Lyra gets away with his life just barely. Bjergsen pushes him off.
But Bjergsen probably could have flash followed with an auto attack and gotten a kill, but he decided not to commit for it. A bunch of really close calls and almost too much discipline for Bjergsen right there, as I feel like he could have gotten first blood double buffs, but conservative play there, just hoping to get Svenskeren saved and back to laning.
It might have been that if he thought he was going to get flanked and die for it, he misses the mid lane wave, and trading kills and losing a wave probably a negative for him. So as it pans out though, Bjergsen doesn't chase, and debatable or not, he at least gets the minion wave here. It is a, worth noting, 400 gold lead for Team Envy, and you would expect that with the lane assignments as they are. You've got range versus melee matchups kind of down the line, and then the roughly strongest bot lane of Ashe Zyra, which should probably be winning.
Yeah,
good early things for Envy.
Pretty consistent trend for Envy to have decent to good early games.
Nicely done. Lance is done. Ninja member has no flash, so this damage will kind of stick, and oof. Ninja TP-less, but gets a good bit of damage on the Svenskeren.
Yeah, taking a lot of extra poke there if you're Svenskeren. Not exactly the jungle start he would have hoped for.
Oh, taking that Biofrost in the mid lane. Does not land make it rain. I don't think Biofrost really needs to hit E. It's been raining a lot in Los Angeles already, but that's okay. Control ward fight! Hakuho! Bam! Gets it. Javelin and the Biofrost puts some pain in as well.
Good early accuracy from Lyra. Oh, speaking of rain, it's also been snowing a lot everywhere. There's massive amounts of snow on the East Coast. Do not know why I'm talking about that, but...
Well, I talked about weather. I brought it up. It's my fault. I'm sorry, chat.
I accept your apology.
Thank you.
TSM kind of just bouncing back. A lot of these early gold leads are just variations in the way the waves are shoving back and forth, because the lanes really have evened out. Hanser teleporting back to lane because he's Shen and he can just ult down. It's going to be an interesting back and forth here where they go for Bjergsen.
Really beautiful trade by Ninja, and kites out the stun. That was actually immaculate. There's one thing that I will say about Ninja. His mechanics are really amazing. I know he's gotten a lot of flack online for positioning, and he had a very high def game before. His mechanics are actually incredible.
The mechanics that are great, but the decision making is where he has the most criticisms. Is why are you going Frozen Heart, Spirit Visage on Rise, and why are you flashing into turrets to finish kills without vision are the main problems for him. We do not want to face check the grave.
Yeah, walking without vision. Speaking of, Svenskeren finds Lyra, Ninja gets him away. But that is a lot of pain and all at once. And no surprise that Grave's going to win that 1v1.
Yeah, and getting back to the earlier point of Envy having strong early games and trying to pick lanes they can shove, it is going to be hard to consistently shove in these TSM solo laners, just because the nature of Shen and Echo were very quick at getting back into lane after doing other things. Like, even if Bjergsen does get harassed out of lane, he can always just expend his ultimate to return immediately after shopping. And that's one of the things you always have to keep in mind as Echo, is his ability to split lane against almost anything.
Absolutely the case, and right now Bjergsen actually holding a small minion lead, and that's very valuable when you've kind of gone in looking for the counter pick here. Jace, of course, worth first picking, but Bjergsen saying the best I can do is this, and there we go. Apollo gonna juke one of the shots, can't juke the third, and okay. All gets blocked away cleanly enough. Still plenty of damage onto this Envy bot lane. Most of the skill shots land. Bjergsen using the shield to keep himself happy as he wave clears once again. And he'll look for his next recall soon enough. Svenskeren hoping for a lane gank now on the top side, but until this wave pushes out, he's not gonna have much action. Seraph playing far away, but he's pushing pretty hard.
Svenskeren also have Krugs and Raptors up, but they're hoping Seraph gets super aggressive. He has fairly aggressive laning tendencies.
And Hanser can try to freeze it to keep him stuck in front of the turret. This is nice by Seraph. He has a job to do first, which is control ward that side. And there we go. Look how far up this wave is. Gets the taunt. Here comes the skill shot accuracy. Can't miss much of it. Early flashes by Seraph, and he's going to also threaten with a stun. But that is ult flash down, which is probably the best you could expect with that kind of gank.
Yeah, it's also a ton of time invested by TSM, so unless they're able to make that return gank, it's not going to have too much. But as you mentioned, it reduces the pressure that Seraph will be able to put on that lane. Doesn't even end up going back to base afterwards, just ended up not taking damage. You can still heal up a little bit with that call.
Yeah, he's going to be okay. This is a very non-threatening lane. He's still got that control ward down in the river, so shouldn't be too likely that he takes any fatal damage here. You never know. Quick control ward focus once again in this top river. Lyra and Ninja not nearly as hampered as they were in the first game. Actually starting to find the ways to make some moves. They're going into the jungle, maybe trying to get some vision control, and he's looking a bit better now for this Envy squad.
Yeah. Turns out when they both don't flash into the mid lane turret and die in the first 7 minutes of the game,
they have a better game.
It's smoother. They're controlling their aggression a little bit and relying on their ability to out-farm and shove in a little bit.
We watch back on the bot side, the minions still very close together. So it's been a low action game of minion wave control, and looks like neither jungler have been really able to make crazy moves. They've had ganks, to be fair, but they haven't turned into all that much, and it's just been the battle of wards more than anything. Hakuho failing to respect Deadly Flourish, takes a couple hundred damage. But Lyra, knowing they have control wards down here, knows he's safe and in fog. Nice hawk shot to say, hey, as Graves bot lane as he is, okay, respect the gank power. Stun's gonna land in Biofrost, and they pull the trigger in time. Javelin from long range means first blood goes over to Hakuho. And stats don't lie, Jat. Team Envy off the first blood.
And that was just a really good play by everyone on Envy right there. Apollo does most of the work by not only hawk-shotting the opponent jungle, but also by pulling the trigger. And then no one had to fully commit to risk being teleported on the other side, because it's double TP on both of these teams. So you can expect a lot of bot lane parties, but they just basically killed Biofrost for max range and kept the counterattack out of the equation. Not much TSM could do aside from not getting hit by the Ash Arrow in the first place.
Absolutely agree. Hansard, of course, did try to burn his ultimate during that encounter. I didn't see if he had got on a Biofrost or not, but it's still on cooldown now as I'm watching back on my feed. And yeah, that seemed to be right when he cast it, so I assume he tried, he just died instantly anyway. But that is Channel Down, which makes this even easier the next time.
Yep, it's Biofrost.
And you could have flashed that arrow.
You could have, but also notice how no one really got within more than 600 range, or closer than 600 range of Biofrost, and there were no wards behind them with which Bergson or Sven or Hansard would have been able to teleport to. Shen Ultimate also got burned. They just burst through it.
Yeah, the Javelin, I think, just one-shot the standard edge shield, because I was surprised, like, wait a second, how did Lyra not get the kill? And then I realized that, yeah, it's the Shen shield that came in like an eighth of a second before the Javelin hit. Kill credit one to Hakuho, and 1,300 gold lead. Team Envy are finding what they really needed here. Their champion picks have worked out for them. The late pick on Nidalee seems to be okay. They were happy to take a bunch of bans, give away the early Graves, and not care too much about it. Ninja's Jace holding up. Seraph's Kennen actually doing pretty well. But you consider that TSM grabbed the Shen super early on in the draft. Look at this damage output, though. A bunch of cones in here, and suddenly all at Hakuho's head. Quick stun's going to crowd, but miss, and the final shot from Wild Turtle means just a bit of damage. That's not going to mean too much. 2 ultis burned by TSM, 1 back from Apollo. That is flash and heal down from the Envy duo lane.
The Summoner Spell burns are nice, but you also wonder how TSM is going to be orchestrating these plays. They have the double TP and the Shen, but where are they going to be able to set up these flanks? Because something that was true of TSM last year is they were one of the fastest teams, not only in game time, but more so in the way they played and were setting up plays aggressively. And that's been the biggest thing that's been missing from TSM this year. While they have still been able to pull out match wins, they haven't been able to do so with very quick-looking plays. Last game they won in 24 minutes, but that was kind of due to Envy messing up and then TSM capitalizing on mistakes. Where is TSM going to find these playmaking opportunities that aren't just other teams making mistakes into them? And
sure,
Envy might not be the best team to prove that against, but now that they're down 2,000 gold to Envy, kind of time to make some plays.
Yeah, and of course it's always going to be hard. They've got, generally speaking, losing lanes. I mean, you look at the priority lanes here again. Every single one was some level of a counter pick or a priority pick that just seems to be pretty good for Team Envy here. It kind of feels like it should be on Svenskeren for getting the high-profile jungler, but you can look at his contrast to Lyra, and you've got a significant minion difference, the actual gold value, 400 or 500 apart. And you're right, TSM not really showing signs of vibrance here.
Yeah.
Blue buff handed over to Ninja pretty cleanly.
And you look, Bjergsen had to burn ultimate in lane as Ninja had just jumped on top of him. unable to even really poke him down, and then Ninja can just go away and get his blue buff without sacrificing lane pressure. So Ninja definitely making this mid lane Jace work, as he had to play against it last game. But now TSM trying to vary their response. They're the ones that send the Misfortune Engine up the top lane, and they're going to try and push Seraph in.
All right, there we go. Signs of life for TSM. Taunt's going to land. Plenty of slows the root as well, and Seraph only has so much HP. Down he goes pretty rapidly. No armor health from the tooltip, and that's going to be a kill. TSM with their first to the board. Looking for their first ever damage as top outer turret as well, but it should be faster from Team Envy. They've got a head start, as well as good champions to the role.
It's a bit of a turret race, you'd think, but Graves not even helping in the mini wave. You're right, this is first turret easily over to Envy, so that kind of negates the gold that was gained by the top lane kill. And now they're so far ahead in tempo as well, they're going to want to push for 2.
And that's going to be up to TSM to answer properly. 3v1, there's a good chance Hosser could die for the attempt. TSM really taking their time with this turret kill, and I don't think it's going to backfire because no one's defending yet.
Well, depending on how many people they invest or show to defend this next turret, Seraph could teleport to that top lane and completely shove off Wild Turtle. I mean, he might just walk up there since it's just Wild Turtle's Jhin. Okay, Biofrost stopped his recall, and they'll be able to finish it off. But that could have been a little close.
You're absolutely right, but it's going to happen, and TSM will guess correctly in the amount of time they had to spend on that, and the amount of resources to invest, and TSM will at least equalize the turret score, although, again, first turret gold obviously did go to Team Envy. Arrow for the mid lane, nice dodge, it actually hits Svenskeren. Whoops. Well, at least in his native environment, frosty arrows into him. Now here comes the Shen ulti onto Bjergsen. Not going to land the taunt on Ninja, and Hanser maybe regrets the decision, blocks some damage, walks away with full HP. He'll be all right with this one. That is another ulti down. TSM try, but it gets turned around. Yeah,
and there goes a lot of their flank potential, which they would want to be able to turn those sieges around instead of just straight up defending against them, because retouching back in on the goals of this Envy team composition, it is to just slowly rotate around. They have this 5-range champion team composition. They want to get turret pressure and then avoid getting picked off as much as possible. Seraph, though,
Ooh, flashing that out of the cone, damage. Frost nearly dies with the crit, but he's a couple hits away from getting it anyway. Now he's got to get away from Curtain Call. Ninja just walks in a melee range, and Turtle has to run for dear life, has to flash away as well, as he would have died to the skies. That is a nice pickup there for the Envy top laner.
Yeah, success, although it was very close. Lyra just wants to get into auto attack range to apply that red buff. Wild Turtle was able to speed away. Still success, though, for Envy, because there's not a good way for TSM to defend this next turret, save for a double TP, which they're doing.
They're going to look for it. One in the front, one in the back. Ninja's got to be just that. He's, surrounded now. Echo on one side, Hanser's Shen on the other, and Ninja out of mana. Flash to buy a bit more time because Lyra's coming in. Bjergsen running his ulti. Seraph has joined the fight, and suddenly they've turned it around, and Envy have picked off a kill against TSM. This turret is going to follow 3-1 in one, 2-1 in turrets. Looks good for Envy.
And Hanser has to land these taunts if TSM wants to be able to collapse on this. That's the second missed taunt during a turret defense that has led to the death of either a player or that turret. So watching this one more time, as you said, one in the front, one in the back, they're trying to cut him off, but Bjergsen, parallel convergence not in the right space. Ninja has the move speed from the acceleration, he sidesteps on Hanser. And the flash was just trying to burst damage, but once again, just poor execution, giving time for Seraph to teleport back in. And Envy is looking quite strong early on with this split push. That is a big gold lead for 17 minutes.
Yeah, 4,000 is solid for this one, and the win lane, win game composition is doing well. They're finding ways to leverage the winning lanes pretty nicely. I just want to keep track on Lyra for how bad he did last game. He's now over 1,000 up against Svenskeren. Been a part of some of the turret kills, sure, maybe, but doing pretty beautifully for himself. Every lane up in gold, every roll up a couple hundred.
Now, if there's one thing to remember about Nidalee Jungle, it's that it's usually up in CS against its opponent. Back in the day, though, Graves was one of the few champions that could kind of keep up with the Nidalee power farm. Obviously, Jungle CS is misleading. It's the 1,000 gold that we're mainly paying attention to, and they're doing quite a good job.
It is worth pointing out, though, that Nidalee definitely going to be much better at killing things like Raptors and Krugs, where you've got kind of that boundless AoE. Again, part of the reason the numbers are inflated, you're killing these 10 gold minions, but Graves, like, it's hard to make the buckshot land on everything a lot of the time. It just has a mind of its own, but Lyra is so easy to pounce, swipe. Oh, there's 40 gold. Oh, big Raptors next, no big deal. Yeah, it's 112 gold per Raptor camp. It's a lot of money in.
Yeah, and Envy looking a lot more determined in the way they move around the map this game. They've already taken out both of the side lanes, and now they're just setting up shop in the mid lane, this time with a little bit of map pressure already. Notice how Hanser is stuck clearing minions off in the top side as Seraph was going for that counter jungle. They would love to set up that siege, but Ninja is actually going to push down the bottom lane.
And this is pretty good. This is, I guess, what Envy are hoping their games start to look like, is when they have pressure and it feels like they're actually consistently making good plays. We had Seraph solo steal a red buff. Sven walks in and goes, it's gone, crud. And making life, of course, very difficult. They've got good split pushers. The double TP is down for a few minutes, and maybe that's something TSM can work around. Thinking that right now, actually, Hanser could join the fight that Seraph cannot.
Yeah, with the Shen ultimate, they could force a 5v4 or just jump on Ninja. Here comes the Shen ult.
A lot of damage in. Shen as well. Ninja is so fast. And again, he jukes it. Ninja's mechanics are really quite good, but the dive is still coming through. Bjergsen to ult out, but Hanser grabs himself the kill. 1 for 0. Nicely played. Seraph is roaming down just to the mid lane, though. Look at the pressure. That one is a trade for the kill.
0 for 3 on those taunts, but they should still be able to force for this Drake. Envy going to try and stop potentially.
They land the stun to Wild Turtle. Javelin in as well, but not much of a chance to steal. That's going to be 2 Drakes to TSM. Seraph still just pushing the mid lane in. The rest of the team will join him. And turret for an Ocean Drake and a kill is a reasonable trade, though probably a little bit TSM favored.
Yeah, well, it was TSM who initiated that play, right? They had the Shen ultimate to try and combo in. But as you mentioned, Ninja just continually juking out of these taunts, and Hanser just honestly missing them a lot of times because that was about as point blank as you can get for a Shen taunt. Not a good Shen game for him thus far. Edge of Night is on Ninja early as he tries to walk in. That gets popped off right here by Bjergsen, and then Shen ult. Bjergsen even flashes to try and make this better. The Ghost Blade was popped. To Ninja's credit, he's always enhancing his move speed while he's trying to juke these taunts. Yeah. Hanser gets the kill anyway, though, and they're able to get the Drake.
And one of the things that we're seeing as well is an increased, I love Keystones, increased push towards Stormraider Surge on mid Jace, and he's getting that move speed pretty easily. Anytime he's getting ganked, he's like, okay, I will hit Bjergsen a bunch, get a crap ton of move speed, outrun the Q, and just those little bits, sometimes they matter. You saw he juked left to have the taunt come that way, immediately juked right, and sometimes you just need enough speed to clear the hitbox. In that case, he did, and I don't know. In my mind, like, I have to credit Ninja for that more so than it being missed taunts. At a certain point, like, Hanser has to predict that now and realize the juke path that Ninja's going for, but these aren't just, like, missing a minion. You're missing a human being who knows your timing and knows your cooldowns, and I'm pretty happy with Ninja for that one. Team Envy right now feeling good with a 4,000 gold lead. Of course, outer turret's now gone. The rest of the game gets harder, and that's always the mark of these teams that have good early games that can't close out. Is great, you can put the first 20 minutes, but the difficulty ramps up as time goes on, and it's a gold that TSM are capable of coming back from.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that Envy kind of going more all in on this strat, though, with the Hurricane being picked up by Seraph, even more damage and less durability than last game where he had picked up the Frozen Mallet. Of course, when he has the auto attack zone, Seraph has to walk away from it. Oh, Ash Arrow!
Biofrost takes the stun, which means the damage still comes through, and Wild Turtle takes down Hakuho. Beautifully done there. TSM starting to claw that comeback in. Hanser pulling the ult out away from Seraph. And he's not even building that strongly against magic resist, of course, but still surviving it up. Puts the shield. Seraph has to kite back and forth, and Hanser making the best of a bad situation, I gotta believe.
Yeah, Ninja Tabi are still going to diminish the damage a little bit because of the 12% basic attack damage reduction. Decent survivability. You can really see it's going to be a while, if ever, that Seraph can really solo out the Shen. That is one thing about Shen, is he's a great equalizer in these anti-split push battles. One of the reasons TSM was happy picking him up, and still plenty of game yet to play, as we see with TSM able to get that pick and then Hanser repelling that Seraph ultimate in the top lane.
See if we can see more good things out of Hanser and the rest of TSM as Bjergsen continuing to build up towards his assassin tendencies. Lichbane now to join the Proto Belt. Really good at getting in there and landing the auto attacks and trying to chunk down his opponents. You gotta imagine Hexdrinker could be coming in soon for Ninja. Seraph gets to coincidentally already build against it with the Merc Treads and the Wits End, so we can feel good about this. 2 major items done for both the bot lane marksmen as well. You've got dual lethality in for Wild Turtle, FP3 for Hurricane in for Apollo, which means incredibly short cooldown. Should feel good about spamming arrows and even decent DPS to back it up.
Absolutely. It's an interesting inflection point in the game right now. TSM somehow managed to pick up the 2 Drakes during all this, which does hurt Envy a fair bit. With poke competitions like this, Ocean Drake becomes all the more important because it's great for both teams to have, with and against the poke competition. If Envy had this, though, their poke could essentially be endless, and when they do land one, they could be more assured that they can push through. But if TSM is able to keep getting these Drakes, And if they get another Ocean somehow later in the game, it would really hurt Envy's win condition of essentially poking someone out of the turret and then going in.
And again, you're seeing the same play over and over. Bjergsen wants to dive on a Ninja, and Hanser wants to show up alongside that one. Ninja once again, not even burning Summoners, gets away with the fight. But of course, this turret's still losing HP. Here comes the re-engage the team wants in. Hanser decides whether he wants to stay for the turret or not. Finally decides to run away. And maybe now re-engage Apollo. Oh my gosh, the health damage! Wild Turtle and Svensker and landing the skill shots. Apollo having a miserable time of this one. Gets picked off, and now TSM numbers lead, push in, bot lane outer is theirs, and they are finding these signs of life.
Yeah, and that one really hurts for Envy because Ninja did avoid the initial push, and Seraph's plan, as is usual, is just to split push while the rest of the team tries to survive. That plan hasn't worked very well for Envy, but that is still what they are built to do. And then when Apollo gets picked off in the jungle in transit, I believe again by Wild Turtle and Biofrost, who have been pick central for TSM, managed to keep in this game. So you see once again, right, he knocks Bjergsen back so the Shen ultimate can't come in. Bjergsen just dashes to get out of turret range. And then, as Envy's coming in, watch Apollo. He's just thinking about the Ash Arrow. He's the one who ends up getting picked off here. He's actually going back, but Svenskeren is the one who hops over. The Jin bullets continuing to land true for Wild Turtle. And
he was the last one to rotate.
Kills.
Yeah, that was rough. Apollo, the last one to rotate, got cut off as well by Biofrost move speed and ganked off by Svenskeren, and that's rough. He'll be the last one to the party. Oh. At least it was a trade of turrets. Envy got a slightly better one. Look at the damage out of Svenskeren. Lyra forced a flash away, and Sven finally showing some more signs of life himself as well. Burning summoners, burning kills. Seraph once again dueling with Hanser, who is actually still building much more toward armor, and that's pretty relevant, of course, considering Seraph's build here.
Still got a good amount of AD in that build. Or rather, physical damage more than AD.
Yeah, a lot of attack speed, which... Okay, there we go. Haku's going to block the shots, and thankfully he's able to stay alive through it. But Wild Turtle really putting in a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Cloud Drake up right now. All ultimates except for the Curtain Call up for TSM. Envy not really in position to collapse unless Seraph wants to teleport in and go for a team fight now that he has Frozen Mallet.
Pretty reasonably done right there. Looks like they timed it all nicely, and TSM going to stay afloat of this one. So yeah, all three Drakes right now going to TSM, and it's nice for them because it feels like the way TSM have to win this game is again, finding these team fights, navigating around the poke, and it makes that late game Elder Dragon an even better team fight hub for them. Envy can't give that away 40 minutes in, or it's going to be a ton of true damage added onto the TSM lineup. So it feels like if TSM can stay the course, they've got everything they need. Frozen Mallet now done for Seraph could actually mean quite a lot.
Very true.
It would make it hard for Hanser to keep alive in the 1v1.
It's going to make it harder for him to run away after he is theoretically losing a fight. But I mean, even with the Warden's Mail now, reducing the attack speed of Seraph when he hits him, it's very difficult for Seraph to actually solo out Hanser. So if Seraph is able to go up against someone else in those side lanes, that's not the Shen, at least now, you'd expect more. But we're still going to have to track this. Seraph, a very experienced split pusher, and it's kind of where Envy needs to find their edges at this point because their gold lead has stalled out.
Yeah, there's two major forces at work, it feels like. Actually, I should say three. So one is Seraph split pushing, which we feel like is going to continue to go Envy's way. The other two are Bjergsen and Hanser trying to find repeated dives. Ninja, actually, to his credit, doing a very good job outplaying them. And the other is Wild Turtle just presses R and someone dies 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's 2-to-1 as far as tools in the tool belt. We'll see if TSM can find much more.
Yeah. I really would have liked to see Seraph go with the Blade of the Ruin King instead of the Hurricane. He technically has faster wave shove with the Hurricane, but if he wants a realistic chance of killing a tank like Hanser, I feel like the Blade of the Ruin King would be much more solid towards that end. Maybe he'll build the next and go even more attack speed focused. That would be potentially expected, but even just looking at the map pressure, it's falling away from Envy, and you don't want this to be the story every game for Envy where they get the early lead and then just don't know what to do with it, but that's kind of what it's looking like as TSM tries to set up shop mid.
And a bit of support from the rest of the squad makes Wild Turtle end the ulti early, still managing to land a parting shot on Apollo, and again, thankful for him, he's got an Italy to heal him as well, but yeah, even if there are more tools for Envy, they seem to be very blunt and they're not getting a lot done with them. The arrow picks aren't really coming in, and the Ninja Siege isn't getting a lot done either. Seraph once again in a battle with Hanser, and Hanser just kind of withstanding the damage. You got to jump over the wall, Spencer coming for the flank, and suddenly now Seraph is going to be in a bad spot. Blinded, attacked, Goes for the stun, gets away from most, but there we go. A taunt finally lands for Answer. Finds button on his keyboard. The kill comes through to Svenskar, and red buff steal comes through for Lyra, but I will take a kill for the red buff any day of the week.
Yeah, and it's essentially split push down right there. Seraph now going with the last Whisper because he's not cutting through Hanser at all. Basically at half health by the time that gank arrived, and he hadn't even started to deal damage to Hanser, so good job by Svenskar, and Hanser landing 2 taunts back to back here. They're going to turn it into a split push of their own.
And the teleport coming in for Bjergsen to keep the minion alive as well. This could be plenty of damage. Ninja going to find a bit of poke boost for the minion. Smart choice, but it's not going to be enough. Turret's going to go down. TSM nicely played, get their 3rd turret, and it's a bot lane tier 2.
Yeah, that 4,000 gold lead that was there 16 minutes into the game is now a 2,000 gold lead 14 minutes later. 13 minutes later for TSM, and they're going to look for more because Sarah's still down.
And it's going to be another one right off the bat. Goes down, goes down. TSM making some pretty crisp rotations, and the gold lead now almost tied, just nearly 1,000 gold apart from these two squads. TSM, of course, double Cloud Drake and Ocean Drake gives them nice uptime and nice rotation advantages, and they're playing to those quite nicely. Turtle's got himself a rapid fire cannon, even better turret killer with that. And Hanser may just be invincible. We'll see if Last changes much. Ninja wants to fight Bjergsen. Hanser does have ulti, and there's no really point to dive that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if Wild Turtle's going to turn that BF sword into an Infinity Edge or a Duskblade, because he's kind of halfway between a lethality build and a crit build on Jhin. The Duskblade would still be very good for the ultimate, and Jhin obviously converts the attack speed and the crit just into attack damage anyway a lot of the time. But we've seen a lot of variations in those later game build paths after people go for lethality rushes.
I like Dusk, but there's no real tank, so you're going to get a lot of value out of lethality.
Yeah.
If he was like against Maokai and like a Rek'Sai jungle, I'd say you need IE to actually pick those things off, but I don't think he needs to do that this game. We'll see though, it's up to him. There's definitely priorities and value on both sides. As we once again go back to our side lanes here, and it's Hanser, equal level with Seraph. 20 minion difference, and yeah, Hanser all he wants to do is clear the wave and then just run away. Sunfire Cape helps that, of course, and says, you know what, I'll see you in 30 seconds. Seraph will see if this time around he can find an edge in the matchup. TSM continue to scale. Bjergsen only 1.5 items left to go. Void Staff seems to be next.
Yeah, large amount of pick potential coming in from him as well. Fed Echo, especially against Apollo and Hakuho, who have no magic resist, is a very scary proposition for flanking in team fights. Envy trying to mix it up a little bit more, though. Really trying to commit to a 1-3-1. With Ninja having pressure in the top side and Seraph trying to establish pressure in the bot side. But their lead is dwindling.
It definitely is. It's going to be interesting to watch for. It's worth noting that the solo laners on both sides have kind of the same damage profile. Seraph's mostly physical, as is Ninja, and Bjergsen and Hanser both mostly magic. There's no, like, mismatch the matchups. Oh, he counterbuilt one, can't deal with the other. It's kind of convenient. I would say on TSM is they're the one kind of receiving the split push that no one's counter building incorrectly. The Hanser can actually deal with Ninja appropriately. It's not like his Kassadin and the Ninja tabby means nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. His armor build is working almost perfectly based on the split push opponents he's dealing with. But Envy did land a little bit of poke on Biofrost, and they're going for their first Drake. This one's Infernal.
Oh, it's going to be enough damage. Shock Blast is a little bit short. He's going to stay alive. Drake still goes over. Envy get Infernal Drake. More damage is nice to have. Maybe the signs of life continue here. That kind of poke that they need more of.
Yeah, exactly. They finally got some map pressure with their 1-3-1 and then collapsed it at the right time to be able to take an objective, and they were able to land the poke, which is the all-critical thing. Lyra and Ninja, if they can get accurate when they do collapse back, is how they're going to have to win, because TSM just that one Ocean Drake, no natural sustain on their champions. Surprising that Envy hasn't been able to set up more of those in the first 32 minutes of the game.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of their pokers just haven't been sort of dedicating to Siege. Ninja's been splitting the whole time against Bjergsen. He's not actually been looking for that opening chunk, and maybe that's Envy's fault for that, but it's been the way they've played it. 2,000 gold still remains the wedge between these two squads. Turrets equal, Drake's 2 more for TSM, although some would consider the Infernal Drake is better than what they've got. Depends on your analysis and what you value here. TSM looking to get and wrest control away from this top river. I think in good respect, though, they don't go much farther than a couple of pieces of brush. Don't want to walk through the Scuttle Crab.
Yeah. Of course, 33 minutes in, Baron rushes do become very real from both teams. Notice how Seraph also building towards the Blade of the Rune King. At this point, I'm starting to like his build. If he just has the stay with complete lore dominating Sam Blade of the Rune King, you'd hope he'd be able to take down Haunter, but
well, he's
here
trying.
we go.
12 damage.
Attack.
Ooh, 150. He does 75 per auto attack, apparently. And he's going towards Ruin King Jet. So Last Whisper into the Bilgewater Cutlass.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be his full build, and it's
the hope. If that doesn't do it, then you really have to question that pick.
Sure, yeah.
This is our first North American experience with this split push cannon, and it has shown some success in other regions, but that's usually with the mid-game advantage. If you have to wait until 40 minutes before you can whittle down a tank, I'll question it, but that's what Seraph is eventually trying to work towards.
And it looks like Hansur is working towards Guardian Angel as his next build. I feel like he'd have different components if he was going towards Zerat Portal. So actually a much more defensive option. Doesn't want to actually create that little bit of extra lane pressure. Ooh, Bjergsen having to pop Zhonya's an ult and slink away from that one, but that is still two important cooldowns. Sorry, not Zhonya's. I misread what was happening with all the gold on the screen, but does pop his ultimate. And that is a important cooldown gone for him. Void Staff in means important items. This is the Baron rush we're looking at.
Yep, they got a lot of attack speed on that cannon. We talked about Baron being rushable. Bjergsen has no ultimate. That Baron is down.
2,000 HP. The smite not going to come through. Nicely picked up there by Ninja. Team fight is on. Apollo dropped dangerously low. Curtain Call drops Ninja quite injured as well. Hakuo's out, and it's going to be Seraph picking up the first kill of this fight. A trade comes in for Wild Turtle and gets a second for himself. Now on to Lyra, the squishy on the side. Turtle can't quite find the chase. That's Baron for -1 so far. Advantage Team Envy. Lyra with the Javelin. That gets blocked out regardless. He outranges it. TSM with momentary map control, but once the respawns are in, Envy gonna have 3 Baron buffs to their credit.
Yeah, quite a good rush there by Envy. Unfortunate for them that Seraph fell since he would be a primary split pusher, but TSM trying to get as much as they can on the backside here.
They're gonna grit their teeth in Baron. They're gonna take down mid lane tier 2, and suddenly the gold swing of that Baron pickup mostly neutered by the extra kill and that turret pick. The question, though, is what, again, they can do with the buff on the back side of it. The blue buff stolen away is, again, part of the tax you pay for losing one more champion. Kudos to TSM for grabbing about as much as they were supposed to be able to as we watch this fight again.
Control word on the inside. Svenskeren dashes in, but he was a little bit too late. And then with Bjergsen having no ultimate, Envy thinks they're going to be able to burst him down. Zhonya's at the right time as Bauerfrost gets in the ultimate on Misfortune. Very clutch. Wild Turtle flashes for the final kill. And really, since Envy used all of their damage on the Baron and have a poke composition, one of the more dangerous things as a poke composition is when you are trying to rush the objectives, the other team being able to collapse in on you because you kind of cut off your natural escape path by being in the pit. And oh no, this is just not the right position for Ninja.
He is much too far forward. Kill comes through, not even a problem. Infinity had to help him with that one. Kill credit goes to Wild Turtle, the double marksman in the bot lane, take down the marksman in the mid lane. And Envy, unfortunately, have lost one more of their Baron buffs. Oh my gosh, Hakuho deleted.
And this is one of the most frustrating things about watching Envy is you look at them make a good play and then they just seem to throw it away sometimes. They did not have good vision that side of the jungle. Their team was not pressuring waves. Ninja gets picked off as well as Hakuho, and now TSM can potentially open up multiple inhibitors if they play this right.
And this TSM doing this with a gold deficit facing off against Baron buff, but they're just so much better at making the plays happen. Looks like this could actually be TSM's first 2-0 of the split. Mid lane inhibitor goes down. They walk right back down to the bot lane as well. Still missing Ninja and Hakuho. You can't defend a 3v5, and Envy should not throw away the kills. A good little bit of poke done. Wild Turtle's a bit injured, but TSM get to walk away with swagger.
Envy does have double TP if they wanted to get really aggressive on the retreat, since Ninja and Seraph would be reviving.
Follow.
Look like it.
Has ult now.
Yeah. Plays like that and sequences like that just show you how fragile leads can actually be in professional League of Legends, because Ninja had the Baron buff. They were hoping to be able to set up some 1-3-1s. They were building towards this for 37 minutes, and then he steps out of position, which is quite common for Envy, and as I said, is very frustrating to watch as you're trying to see them progress as a team. And 2 inhibitors down. All their split push pressure gone. It takes them now the entire respawn of those inhibitors to get any of that pressure back.
And it's 2 games in a row where Baron dies, and in the next 3 minutes, TSM takes 2 inhibitors down. It's kind of repeatedly TSM able to make these really clutch shot calls. Envy are looking for their own way in on this one.
And if Envy wants to get the Elder Drake, they would want to rush it right now. So they were hoping to get a face-checking TSM member, and that just did not happen. This could be pretty explosive. There is a split pushing Shen, so NB is up against the clock here. They don't want to catch themselves in the Elder Drake pit because they are a poke composition, but they have to respond to the split pushing Shen. They're in a bad spot right now. That's
so rough too, because you know mid and bot will auto push with the inhibs down, and then the fact that Hanser is splitting. I think if Seraph had been 1v1 against him here and they played the 4v4 and then just tried to match teleport, maybe that's a better call to make. But yeah, TSM tooling them around the map appropriately, saying, yep, limited time to even try Drake at all because of the mid and bot inhibitor. And then the Hanser split push is enough to make them have to back off on the call. Envy now in a losing position, looking to sneak in on this one, but Svenskeren respecting some of the poke, has to respect
do a 50-50
arrow,
either.
the javelin, the engage, and Hako's gone right away. Once again, he's the front line looking for the steal on the Drake. Going to be picked up, though, by a convenient smite from Svenskeren. 2 kills already picked up here, by the way, and this one, Ninja could be the next. Running out of HP, Snipe not going to land. Hanser actually getting shot around a fair bit. Look at that one! Onto the ulti, Bjergsen finds it. Seraph still trading with Hanser on the top side of the map, actually, as they both recall away, but TSM obviously coming away with this one. 3 for 0, plus the Elder Dragon, plus now the push into the base. There is no stopping them anymore. TSM looks like it's going to be the game. Looks like it's going to be the match. Looks like it's going to be the 2-0 as TSM take down the rest of the Nexus turrets. And showing their mettle and showing that Envy just do not have the learnings to play late game appropriately as TSM take down the Nexus for the 2-0.
And that's the story, I think, Freak. Only a 3,000 gold lead, 39 minutes in. TSM actually on the ropes for a lot of that game. But once again, we see TSM walk away with the series and Envy walk away with a loss.
Yep. 2-0 wasn't pretty. These games were actually quite close, and you imagine a better team would have closed them out if you were Envy.
Potentially. It was a close game through and through, but just some missteps by Envy, and once again, the right punishes by TSM. I think the Elder Drake fight and the macro play by TSM right at the end was actually very strong. As soon as they had the ability to execute a macro play because they held a slight advantage, they did it immediately. And you just contrast that to Envy, who was unable to pull those off for the majority of the game.
Absolutely. And the Envy strat this game was win lane, win game, and they won the lanes that they were winning the game, but TSM were able to make the right plays. The repeated attempts of Bjergsen and Hanser diving on the side, those were nice to see them attempted, while Turtle had a great game. 7-0 and 2 was actually instrumental in this one. I think this is one of the very few games you can say Turtle